front mount should be mounted, but it's not. This charge pipe's got some dents in it, and its mounts for that apparently aren't good. Oh, there's supposed to be a drain plug here. That's nice. You know, this little bracket's on backwards. We see that a lot. This bolt's loose. You know, someone can get to fully tightening it. This downpipe is got a bit of that flex coupling. Ain't no flex coupling no more. Got all the flex. Got ourselves a nice little insulator here for anti-rattle properties. This has even been spaced out too, so that you get some extra room for your rattle. Yeah. So far not bad. I think we've got a great car, and let's take it to the strip tomorrow. They're very, very carbon fouled and very early. It's hard to tell if there's nothing here, but it looks like there might be nothing there. So this is the exhaust side. So this is basically the back side of the motor, and it looks like right here, you can see the reflection on the cylinder wall, but right here at this piston should be round. It should be round the whole way. Hey guys, Matt from Dan Motorsports here. As you just saw, this thing was pretty much in shambles. Since then, we've actually done quite a bit. We've got a new motor in here from a Junkyard. Junkyard motors are still pretty affordable for these, so just want to get something to get the car up and running, you know, maybe make some passes on it, go have some fun with it, at least to start out before we really throw a big built motor in here and go crazy with it. A lot of other parts have changed. We've got our motor mounts in here. This motor itself too, we went through, did a valve cleaning on it. We did a full inspection on the motor, made sure it was healthy as soon as we got it from the yard. So everything there should be good. We'll find out once we fire it up and really start getting this thing running. We're still waiting on a few parts to, you know, get everything buttoned up back together, but it should be pretty fun. So check it out and enjoy the ride. So we've got the POS a bit more put together now. We've got our engine mounts in it, so we have our passenger side motor mount over here, as well as our driver's side on the transmission. We've also taken the intake manifold, we've cleaned that, cleaned the valves on this motor. They've had about 70,000 miles on it. Not too much buildup, but something to do while we're putting the motor in. So it still looks a bit of a rat's nest. It's a little bit dirty, but we're gonna clean all that, don't you worry. We've also replaced the heater core hoses in the back. Those are a common failure point on these cars, especially around 100,000 miles. They'll tend to leak right at the firewall. So something to always kind of keep an eye out for these cars. We've also put in an ACT clutch in here, full face disc with their extreme duty pressure plate. So gonna be a bit high of a pedal effort as far as force goes, but should be able to handle any power we put at it. We also are running our ARP Nordlock combo with that, so don't have to worry about the volts backing out. So yeah, lots of stuff going into the car. Excited to see what else is done. So we'll get it up in the air and see what's underneath. Takes a while. Not super fast, but lifts are nice. So as you guys saw on the original motor, there was no drain plug in it. We made sure to put one in this pan, so all good there. Another thing we've changed, if you remember from the first video, was this guy was real crusty. So we've replaced a whole under radiator support. This is where the radiator mounts to, front mount intercooler actually mounts to the radiator on these vehicles, but it does help support that as well. So this is all new, nice and shiny, so we're happy about new shiny parts. Not too much else is different under here. The suspension's still off the car. We're gonna build everything back up, get it basically back into where it's a roller while we're still waiting on other parts before the car's up and running. So yeah, should be pretty good, and keep tuned for more. So now you guys seen what's underneath the car. We're really excited for this. We're gonna be installing our drag brake kit setup, replacing all this rusty crap here, getting on some fresh new parts from Willwood. This is our drag brake kit, so we're excited to get this on this car and lighten things up by a good 50 pounds or so. So yeah, let's dive in. little bit about this kit. This is a Focus drag brake kit. Same thing with our Mazda Speed 3. Same drag brake kit, very similar setup. With this, we're using Willwood's Dyno Pro calipers. They're going to save a whole lot of weight over these factory steel ones. These are aluminum versus that. Those are factory steel calipers. So you're going to save a lot of weight there. We're also using 2-piece rotors. So here's the rotor disc itself. The hat itself is going to be aluminum. You'll see us assembling those together pretty soon. That's going to replace this big big cast iron rotor. So let's get started. We're going to pull off the calipers themselves. Next thing we're going to do is take the rotor off. There we go. Set that aside. Next up, we're going to take this brake shield off. Weight savings. Remove the brake line. Shouldn't be too bad. Leak some fluid, as you can see. Remove the brake line here from this mount. Guy's fighting me. All right, now this guy's out. Now that that's out, we can actually fully remove the caliper from the vehicle inside the side. So next up, we're going to clean up this hub surface here. All right, so now we're going to show you guys to put on the caliper bracket. All right, so now we're going to mount the rotor hat to the rotor itself. So next up, we're going to torque. All right, now that these are in, we do highly recommend safety wiring it. All right, so now we're going to take the rotor, put it back on our hub here. So I'm just taking a lug nut here just to kind of mount this down. So next up, we're going to install our brake fitting here. Sure to clean that off. So here are the supplied fittings and everything. We're going to put a little bit of Teflon tape around here. For that, we're just going to wrap it around. Yeah, now we've got some Teflon tape on here. All right, so now we're going to install this fitting into the caliper. This caliper is ready to go onto the caliper bracket. Take the caliper and thread these bolts. All right, so we're going to now torque. So here I have a grommet that we're installing onto this brake line. I just have a pair of snap ring pliers, something to spread it to make it go on here a little bit easier, just because it's a little tricky. So now we're going to take this brake line with the grommet. A little bit of oil might help as well. Next, we're going to install this line because this is a flare fitting. Let's do it. All right, so next up, we're going to take this. Next up, I'm going to take this. All right, so now we're just going to and then snug this down. All right, next up we're gonna put our brake pads in. So once that's all good, clean the rotor surface. So you wanna do this. The final step, you're gonna need to bleed your brakes. Only loosen these tiny little bleeders up top. If this is something you guys are wanting for your own vehicle, or if you have any questions about it, don't hesitate to reach out and check out danmotorsports.com. From here, we're gonna go up top and we're gonna install one of our catch can kits on this car. So let's get to it. All right, now that we're basically lowered back down and in the engine bay, we're going to install our Stage 1 oil catch can onto the ProjectST. So this kit is going to install right here off the intake manifold. We already have our Symposer delete on it, so we've got room to put this here. So yeah, let's dive right into it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to prep the catch can kit. This will go on the bottom port of the catch can. This is the dirty port. Next up, we're going to take our intake side hose. This hose has a check valve, so this allows only vacuum to go through this system. So you're not going to have any boost going into the system. Main reason for that is we don't want boost leaking past the factory PCV valve, which is just a plastic on plastic connection. So there's no effective seal. So in standard operating procedure, this car is going to leak a little bit of boost into the crankcase. With this setup, it's not going to do that anymore. So we're going to set this up by putting this hose next on the top port. This is our clean port. And the catch can set up now with the hoses on. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to put the bracket on the back of the can. So you're going to take the bracket. You can use either port. We generally recommend using the lower one. Installed onto the can. Installing our drain barb onto the bottom of our drain valve. And this guy simply just threads in. Use a little bit of Teflon tape on this, or even just some silicone sealant. All right, so now we're going to take our drain hose and just simply slide it onto the drain bar. So yeah, now that the catch can's prepped, you can go ahead and start getting this ready and installed in the car. So next what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of get a couple wires out of the way. So we're going to disconnect this sensor here, a little bit more wiggle room, and then there's another connector down here. This one goes on the high pressure fuel rail sensor. I'm just going to pull that out and also pull this purge valve hose back a little bit too. All right, from here we're going to take off the intake manifold. All right, now that all the intake manifold bolts are off and loosened, we can actually physically pull the intake manifold away. This will give us plenty of room to reach down here to the PCV valve hose. Yeah, for this connector, you want to squeeze both sides of it. So now that hose is off, we're going to do a little modification with the hose. We're just going to turn it on the green part of the PCV valve, and we're going to turn this 90-degree fitting here over here, because we're going to connect back into this with our new catch can line hose. We can now take our catch can kit, route the drain hose down, and we're going to start with the PCV line. That's going to connect right into that hose that we just disconnected. You'll hear a very satisfying click, and that's how we know that that is in. So next we're going to take the intake manifold line and route this down to where we pulled that line off. You'll hear another satisfying click, and that's how we know that that's on. So when you go to basically mount the can onto the intake manifold, going to kind of bend this hose up and just kind of line up the manifold first, kind of get that guy in place. All right, we're going to start throwing bolts back in for the intake manifold. Just going to zip it on quick with an impact. All right, so next up what we're going to do is we're going to torque these intake manifold bolts down to 15 foot-pounds. Sweet, now that those are all tight, you can take the other provided bolt we have for the catch can and mount it to this hole on the intake manifold. These ones don't need to get tightened all that crazy, only about 10 foot-pounds at most. So we just installed our stage 1 oil catch can kit onto the ProjectST. That's pretty much going to be a wrap for today. We still have a lot of work to do to the car, but we're going to start getting it buttoned up. Hopefully driving soon once we get parts in. And yeah, so make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for more. We're going to be installing our drag brake kit setup, replacing all this rusty crap.